about the idea of big mistakes or common mistakes that people make once they're up and running? They've been on the service a year, a couple years. What's a mistake to watch out for? Jeremy, I wouldn't even ask you one that you've made, but I mean, what are some mistakes that a lot of users might make with Amazon Web Services to avoid?
So users that have been there for a while, probably the biggest mistake, and this is one that actually Netflix makes too, is having unused resources laying around, not cleaning up after yourself, basically. We're constantly, trying to find the unused resources and clean them up. You'll get disk images laying around. You'll get systems that are running that you just forgot about, things like that. So it's really important to keep track of your resource usage from the get-go, so that it'll make it easier to follow up with that later. And that's, Amazon makes this easier now. They have tags. Tagging is great. You should definitely use tagging of your resources to help you keep track of what they are and what they're for and who owns them in a multi-tenant environment. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of probably the biggest mistakes that old-time users are going to make, is just having that stuff around, and having legacy isn't really a mistake. It's a problem you're going to have to deal with. As they come out with new features that you might have to upgrade to, that it's harder than going to in the first place.
Is that cleanup procedure a fairly easy thing to do, or is it tedious and really requires a lot of time from someone?
Well, it depends. So we do have automated tools to do it. We have the Janitor Monkey, and the Janitor Monkey's pretty good at finding that stuff, but occasionally, it requires the manual effort. The Janitor Monkey only identifies things typically. Then usually a person has to go and verify it. It will delete resources that it's 100% confident of that are unused, but generally speaking, somebody has to go and look.
Well, don't you have another tool called Chaos Monkey? I love that one.
We do, and that one.
What does that do?
One that kills instances in production. So it'll randomly just destroy machines. And the main reason that we do this is to make sure that we're always up to date on our ability to withstand that type of failure. So like I said before, the cloud is ephemeral, the machines go away. You want to make sure that you are resilient to that failure. So the way we do that is we just induce that failure. That's basically our key to maintaining reliability on Amazon, is constantly inducing the failures that can happen, so we know that we're resilient to them.
So you actually have an app that attacks yourself, in a sense.
It'd be like going to your data center and just randomly pulling plugs out of machines.
Can people download that app in case they want to attack themselves?
Yeah, that is also part of our open source on our GitHub page.
Okay, good. Matt, common mistakes? Not using Chaos Monkey enough?
We don't need Chaos Monkey. You should meet our coders. But
okay. Uh-oh. Oh no.
Yeah, the biggest mistake we see is, after what Jeremy said, is we see people avoiding the planning side of what they're doing. And there's a couple of areas here. One is they put off using reserved instances and other prepayments with other vendors because they're really complicated to get right. And instead of trying to get them perfect, you should just every month, every quarter, look at the really easy wins, the stuff where you go, crap, I should have done that 3 months ago. The other thing that we see people doing is that they don't look on their costs as that variable, and therefore they don't look at the feature costs. So some of our more advanced customers, they know the price of every feature in their product. They know which users are the most profitable, which ones are losing the money, and they experiment with how they charge for their software because they know that the costs of providing this feature, they're not making money on it. Mm-hmm. So we see a lot more sophistication now in understanding in your software development process how it affects the price you charge for what you're providing. And then the last thing we see is just architecture mistakes, where people are still treating this like a data center on the cloud. They're not taking full advantage of things like the services. Why are you running your own email server when you can outsource that? And things like this. There's a lot of bandwidth and quality improvements you can provide by outsourcing that to one of the services that Amazon provides or one of Amazon's partners.
Right. Bernard, big mistakes, things you've seen people doing as you've written your book. I guess you probably talk with a lot of users. But I mean, common mistakes to avoid?
Well, I think what I'm going to address isn't so much a mistake as a sort of unanticipated benefit or unanticipated consequence. I mean, one of the things that I think is is very difficult for people to grasp when they start using Amazon is how easy it is to use. I mean, they're used to sort of, I'll just give you an example of one of our customers. We were talking to them, and they said, oh, yeah, it takes us 6 weeks to get a virtual machine, once from the point we order it to the point it's available out of our internal data center. So they have a large proportion of their company using Amazon because their resources are available immediately.
Right.
The flip side of that is it's very easy for things to be getting used a lot, not paying as much attention. It's so I'll just give you an example. I was talking to the CIO of a very large media company one day, and he said, you know, we started using this Amazon stuff, and it was fantastic. He goes, you know, we were able to get resources immediately. You know, we could experiment, blah, blah, blah. It's all fantastic. He goes, but, you know, what happened was the first month one of our guys started using it, the bill was $400. We thought, that is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He said the next month the bill was $10,000.
Whoa, okay.
He said, now we're a big company. We can afford $10,000, but you kind of want to know what changed. And
Right.
that's, I think, the implication. I don't call it a downside or a mistake as much as the implication of how much this streamlines the availability of resources that, you know, it's kind of the equivalent of if you've been driving an old Volkswagen and you buy a Ferrari. All of a sudden, there's a whole set of things that you need to be concerned about that probably in the past, not too much of a worry.
You see, Bernard, that's a very management perspective. Another perspective I'd like to share to that same incident is for an engineer. So it used to be that you've got that server, the marginal cost of using it is zero. You've already paid for it. Now, your boss is on your back. $1 an hour is $6,400 a year. So you better well have a reason why you need it, or else it's going to get turned off, and that $10,000 bill is going to get forced back to $400. And this is a completely new discipline for mid-level managers and their engineers, is having to justify what you're doing every day, every hour almost, because there's going to be people every time those financiers get the bill and it's up, they're going to be back in your office going, what the heck is going on?
I guess when will there be, or is there already an app that tells you hour by hour how much you're spending on the cloud or how much you're spending on Amazon Web Services? I mean, you're 300 hours into the month. You should know your bill, you know, hourly by hourly. Is that not
it's
possible?
not so much we do that, and Amazon have tools, and there are other tools. It's the mindset that you don't have a pass anymore. It used to be you had to build out the data center with some space because it took time, took 6 weeks to get more space, or more than 6 weeks. Now you've got this different mindset where there's a finance person in your office going, what would happen if we turn that off right now? And if you can't answer that question with data, then you get to turn it off because you're spending cash every hour.
Sure. It never stops.
If I turn it off now instead of tomorrow, that's money saved.